What is your name? Where are you from? And why are you here today?
İsmim Osmanjan Rozi. Yurtum Şarkı
I'm
Türkistan.
Osmanjan Rozi. I'm from East Turkestan. Since China occupied my country, the Chinese changed the name of my country to the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Since then, the oppression on the Uyghur people by the Chinese government has never stopped. I'm strongly against their policy. That is why I am here today to protest.
When did you leave East Turkestan? For the last couple of years, we have been hearing that China is suppressing the Muslims in East Turkestan. What do you have to say about this?
I couldn't stand the intense suppression of the Uyghur people by the Chinese government, so I was forced to flee in 2013 to seek freedom. In 2013, I fled to Southeast Asia, and I stayed there for some time, but I was worried about my safety there, and that's why in 2014 I fled to Turkey. What you are hearing in the news is correct. China has been violating the religious practices, culture, and traditions, as well as the basic human rights of the Uyghur people since its occupation of East Turkestan in 1949. China is imposing various restrictions against the Uyghur people. In fact, since 9/11, China has been exploiting the war on terror to kill and imprison Uyghurs who hold a different opinion than that of the Chinese government. The Chinese government's policy is now to eradicate Uyghur culture, language, and identity while imposing Mandarin, which is actually the official Chinese language, and Han Chinese culture on the indigenous people of East Turkestan. This policy to eradicate the Uyghurs has been in place for years. However, since the current president of China, Xi Jinping, took power, this policy has been intensified.
You said you come to Turkey, so why did you come to Netherlands from Turkey?
We Uyghurs are very close to the Turkish people in terms of language, culture, tradition, and religion. And I thought Turkey would be a much safer place for me than Southeast Asia, so I went to Turkey. And while I was in Turkey, I tried my best to let the Turkish people know what China is doing to the Uyghur people. Some political activists like Abdulkadir Yapcan and Sheikh Ibrahim Damallah have since been arrested in Turkey since October 2016. Chinese agents in Turkey are using social media like WhatsApp and WeChat to threaten Uyghurs in Turkey by sending messages like, "Work for us or we will have you deported to China," or "We will imprison your parents and other family members," and they say that nothing can stop us. And this put a lot of fear and pressure on Uyghurs living in Turkey. In fact, some Uyghur activists disappeared. I feared that the Chinese agents and spies in Turkey would try to hurt me, so I left to the Netherlands.
You said 9/11 was a good opportunity for China to crack down on the Uyghur people. Can you provide us some details, please?
Since the Chinese occupation of East Turkestan till 9/11, China has been implementing laws that has restricted the Uyghur Muslims' religion, culture, economic welfare, and traditions. Tens of thousands of people became disabled due to the after effects of nuclear testing in East Turkestan. And in fact, research has shown that nearly 1 million Uyghurs died as a result of nuclear testing. Also, the Chinese government has transferred millions of Han Chinese settlers from Chinese provinces to make the Uyghurs become a minority in their own land. China used 9/11 as a perfect opportunity to label Uyghurs as terrorists. For example, anyone that's under 18 is not allowed to enter a mosque or fast during Ramadan. Women who wear headscarves and long dresses are accused of being terrorists. Many students, teachers, and religious scholars have been imprisoned because their views were deemed as extreme and contrary to that of the Chinese government, so they have been labeled as terrorists. Also, for those who visited Mecca for Umrah or Hajj, and those who have Muslim names, and those who have beards, are being labeled as extremists and terrorists, and they're being sent to prison labor camps. The Quran and other Islamic books and texts have been burned. Uyghur imams have been forced to dance and praise the Chinese government. And as you may have heard, since July of this year, the Uyghur language has been banned from schools across East Turkestan. as usual, this is really hard on the survival of the Uyghur people and their identity.
Why doesn't the international community and the Muslim world respond to China?
Well, every year, human rights organizations and Amnesty International have published reports about China's human rights violations, including those in East Turkestan. However, this is not enough. I hope more things will be revealed to the international community. Speaking of Muslim countries, they often self-censor reports on the Uyghurs in East Turkestan as they have close trade relations with China. China rarely allows foreign journalists or any non-government journalists, for that matter, to report in East Turkestan. Social media and communication is heavily controlled and even blocked. That's why the Muslim world is unaware of the situation of the Uyghur people. Besides, some of the dictatorial governments in Muslim countries don't wish to anger China because of their own personal interests, so they don't allow any kind of news about Uyghurs to be published in their countries. I hope that Muslim scholars and Islamic organizations in Muslim countries make effort to let people know about the plight of the Uyghur Muslims. Some Muslim countries like Pakistan, Malaysia, Egypt, and the UAE have helped China to arrest Uyghur students and refugees who went there to study Islam and save their lives. But these countries have ruthlessly deported them to China. I think some of the media and news agencies in these countries receive money from the Chinese government as they continuously demonize Uyghurs in their reports, and that way so that the local masses don't have any sympathy or concern for the Uyghur people.
To the international community and the Muslim world.
Firstly, we're human beings. Secondly, we're Muslims. I wish the international community would understand our tragic situation. We urge the international community to press China to stop the suppression of the Uyghur people. I wish all the Muslims across the world wouldn't forget their Muslim brothers and sisters of East Turkestan who are currently suffering under Chinese occupation and colonization. As for the Muslim countries who have close trade relations with China, I urge them to press China to stop the genocide of the Uyghur Muslims, and I ask that they don't deport the Uyghurs who fled from oppression, and that they treat them as human beings, and I hope that they give them a chance to live safely and freely in their countries.